No one noticed when the mountain changed hands. No headlines, no real estate signs, just a quiet transaction. Buried deep in county records, 100 square miles of unforgiving rock, pine forest, and snow-choked ridges sold to a man who paid in full, in cash and asked no questions. His name was Elias Vaughan. To the world, he was a retired military contractor. To the mountains, he was something else entirely. Elias didn't buy the land to build. He didn't buy it to hunt. He bought it because it was empty, isolated and cruel enough to keep most people away. And because silence, after 23 years as a sniper, had become the only thing that could still speak to him. The locals rarely saw him. When they did, it was always the same. An old diesel truck moving slow on logging roads. No plates, no radio chatter. Elias kept his hair short, his beard trimmed tight, his movements economical. Every habit screamed discipline, but none of it was loud. He built no cabin visible from the road. His shelter was dug into the mountain itself, reinforced with stone, earth, and patience. Cameras lined the perimeter, invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. Sensors under the soil felt pressure. Wind patterns were mapped. Escape routes calculated. Elias didn't believe in fences, but for the law, he put one up anyway. A simple wire boundary with signs posted every 50 yards. Private land, no trespassing. The mountain listened. It always does. 3 months later, the poachers arrived. They weren't amateurs. Amateurs left tracks, shell casings, mistakes. These men came in before dawn on snowmobiles, killed silently, and stripped animals with surgical efficiency. Wolves, elk, even a mountain lion once, its head removed, body left like a warning. They sold bones, skins, organs. The kind of men who didn't care about seasons, laws, or balance. They believed the mountain was empty. They believed no one was watching. They were wrong. Elias first noticed the disruption when the wolves stopped howling. Silence like that isn't natural. It's fear. He followed it for 2 days, moving uphill against the wind, leaving nothing behind. He found the carcasses frozen into the snow, clean cuts, professional work. Elias knelt beside one and closed his eyes, not in prayer, but in memory. This wasn't anger, it was recognition. Predators always recognize other predators. He didn't call the authorities, not yet. That night, Elias adjusted his routines. Cameras shifted. Trails were erased. He disabled the old logging road without leaving signs of sabotage. Then he waited. Waiting had once been his entire life. The poachers crossed his fence a week later. 5 men, armed, confident. They laughed as they cut the wire, mocking the signs. Elias watched them through thermal optics from 2 miles away. He noted their formation, their weapons. Their leader, the one who walked slightly ahead, careless. The mountain wind carried their voices upward, and Elias listened without judgment. He waited until they were deep inside the land, far from the road, far from help. The first man disappeared without a sound. No shot, no scream, just absence. The others noticed within seconds. Panic flared fast, ugly. Guns came up. Radios crackled. Elias moved like a shadow the mountain had learned to cast. He never stayed in one place long. He let the forest work for him, branches snapping in the wrong direction. A glimpse of movement just long enough to fracture nerves. By dawn, only 2 were left. They ran. Elias let them. Fear teaches better lessons than bullets. One made it to the fence. He tripped over the wire he'd cut hours earlier, sobbing, bleeding, alive. The other never reached it. The mountain kept him. 2 days later, a single message appeared nailed to the remaining fence post, written in charcoal on old wood. This land is not empty. No signatures, no threats. Just truth. The poachers never returned. And if this story has pulled you into the silence of that mountain, subscribe now, because this is only the beginning. The mountain did not forget the men who crossed it, and neither did Elias Vaughan. Days after the last poacher vanished into snow and shadow, the land settled into a quiet that felt earned rather than empty. Wind threaded the pines again. Ravens returned to their circuits. Far below, meltwater found its old paths and ran clear. Elias watched it all from his hidden overlook, not with satisfaction, but with the calm of a task finished properly. In another life, that calm had come. After a mission brief ended with clean extraction and zero collateral. Here it came after balance returned. But balance, Elias knew, was never permanent. It was maintained. He began the slow work of erasing himself again, relocating hides, rotating sensors, letting the mountain breathe without his footprint pressing too hard. He tracked the two survivors from afar as they staggered into town days later. Eyes hollow, stories broken by fear. They spoke of something in the trees, of voices where there were none, of a man who never fired a shot. The sheriff listened, skeptical, then tired. Nothing could be proven. No bodies recovered. No crime scene that could stand in court. The mountain kept its secrets like it always had. Weeks passed. Snow fell hard and stayed. Elias spent long nights listening to the wind rake the ridges, replaying memories he couldn't quite outrun. In the quiet, ghosts returned. Long-range shots taken under stars that felt too close. Radio whispers cut short. Faces he never saw clearly but remembered anyway. He had left that life because it demanded pieces of him he could no longer give. He came here to stop taking, to guard something instead. That was when he found the trapline. It wasn't meant for animals. Crude but clever, set along a natural choke where elk crossed. Someone had tested his perimeter again, quietly, carefully. Elias studied the work and felt the familiar tightening behind his eyes. This wasn't the same crew. Different hands, different patience. Word had spread, but not the kind that keeps men away. The kind that dares them. He dismantled the traps without leaving evidence and followed the faintest of signs downslope, letting the mountain teach him what it already knew. 2 days later he found their camp, temporary, disciplined, hidden well enough to fool most. Not him. Elias watched from above as 4 men argued in low voices. These weren't reckless poachers. They were brokers, middlemen who paid others to get dirty and came only when the money was good. They believed fear could be measured and priced. They believed everything could. That night Elias chose restraint. He did not confront them. He did not chase. He waited for the storm he knew was coming and moved the mountain's pieces so that when it arrived, it would arrive hard. He collapsed an old trail with a controlled slide, blocking their clean exit. He disabled their snow machines in a way that would look like cold failure. He left them with food enough to survive if they chose to turn back, and uncertainty enough to break them if they didn't. The storm came at dusk. Wind howled through passes like a warning horn, and snow erased edges until the world was only motion and sound. Elias watched through whiteout as the men realized too late that the mountain was no longer a place they could negotiate with. Panic followed denial, then the brittle calm of people who understand they misjudged something fundamental. He made himself known once, just once, standing at the tree line where the snow thinned and the shadows thickened. He didn't aim. He didn't threaten. He spoke, voice steady, carried by the wind like a final instruction. He told them where the safe path was. He told them where not to go. He told them to leave the mountain exactly as they found it. They did. When the storm passed, tracks led away in a single line, careful, obedient. Elias followed until he was satisfied they would reach the valley, then turn back. The mountain exhaled. Spring came slow and clean. New grass climbed the slopes. The wolves returned, cautious at first, then confident. Elias watched a mother teach her pups to listen, to test the air, to trust the ground beneath their paws. He felt something loosen in his chest that had been tight for years. This was why he stayed. Not to dominate, but to stand watch. To be the line that didn't need to be crossed twice. One morning a letter appeared at the fence, tucked beneath a stone. No return address, just a newspaper clipping about missing men. A hand-drawn map with his boundaries circled, and a single sentence written small and neat, "We understand now." Elias burned the paper and scattered the ash into the stream. He would never be a hero. Heroes were loud, and the mountain disliked noise. He was something quieter, a keeper of margins, a listener, a man who learned when to act and when to let the land speak for itself. The fence remained, wire humming softly in the wind, not as a challenge but as a courtesy. And if you're still here, still listening to this silence unfold, Remember this, some stories aren't about how hard a man can strike, but how carefully he can choose not to. Subscribe to the channel if you want more stories where patience is power, where the wilderness remembers, and where the quietest line can be the strongest one of all.